I believe you began as a drummer before you took up guitar. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, many years ago when I was in like I guess what they call junior high school over here in the states. My mom at the time got me and Dad got me a kind of a mail order drum kit through the Sears and Roebuck store here in America, and I started playing drums, and then I switched to guitar when I was in high school.
Have you ever pondered how your life and career may have panned out had you not made the switch?
Yeah, you're right. I guess it'd be a whole different thing. It's hard to write songs on drums. But I was always the singer, the drummer, with the old side, how the drummers sing to the side. And then I finally picked up a guitar and decided I wanted to kind of learn it. And I knew how to play a little bit of guitar anyway, so I
Yeah.
decided I wanted to become a singer-songwriter or a fun guy.
So, was yours a musical family growing up?
Not overly musical, but I have a lot of music in the house. My mom had a huge record collection of country and western records, and so there's always a lot of good music playing around the house. But and then near the last years of her life, last 10 years of my mom's life, she actually started like this kind of gospel singing hootenanny barn on the barn behind her house, and so she had a lot of gospel, American gospel bands and stuff there, which was a very musical thing. And she kind of started singing, doing shows there too. But that was way late in her life. But no history of like uncles or my dad didn't really play music or anything.
Yeah. How important do you rate those years spent in Oklahoma in determining where you are now musically?
That's a good question. That's where I really think I formulate my musical identity. It was when I left Texas. I was born in Texas, and I went up to Oklahoma and kind of went my high school years, and the town there was a college town, which kind of isolated on the prairie there with maybe about 60,000 people, and half of the population was college kids. And I lived there enough years where it's like you get a lot of people going to college. From cities and rural communities, and it's like was a lot of music, a lot of bars, a lot of bands, and people bring record collections and from different spots around the state and the country, and I kind of grew up musically there, and it also the state has a great musical heritage. Willie Guthrie and Leon Russell and J.J. Cale, a lot of my favorite musicians. Music I enjoy or Okies, great songwriters like Jimmy Webb, and so it was a pretty musical state. And per capita, I think Oklahoma is very underrated because even in the theme of Nashville, kind of commercial country music, nearly all the stars are Okies. There's Toby Keith and Garth Brooks and Vince Gill and Brooks and Dunn and Reba McEntire. And it just goes on and on. The state, for being such a small populace, because there's probably more people in just the city of Dallas in Texas than the whole state of Oklahoma. It's given a lot of music to the world. Chet Baker's another Okie. I could go on and on.
Yeah, it's true. So what was the lure that brought you back to Texas?
Well, I just was ready for a change, and in Oklahoma you can kind of be a big fish in a small pond, and I was always attracted to Austin and the music scene here. And it's, the city slogan is live music capital of the world, and that's pretty much still true. There's always a lot of great music here, and the city is very supportive of music. Even at the you fly into Austin Airport, you hear Austin artists played over the the PA system in the airport. And there's even Ray Benson from Asleep at the Wheel has a little venue there with live music. They have live music greeting people when they get off the planes. There's bands and et cetera, et cetera. There's actually an Austin Music Commission, and that's a lot of cities don't have stuff like that. There's no Oklahoma City Music Commission or Kansas, where they really try to help the musicians with health things and stuff like that. So it's a pretty hip town that way.
Now, I was interested to read the other day you did some recordings back in those early days with Bob Dylan's old producer, Bob Johnston, and I believe it wasn't a totally happy experience for you.
No, and not because of Bob Johnston. It was the people that were kind of behind the project. Bob Johnston was a great joy to work with. Me and him are still friends. I got word he said hi the other day. And we did some tracks, including, I remember some tracks I cut with him were shortly after Stevie Ray Vaughan had died, and we used Double Trouble as the rhythm section, and Chuck Leavell was on keyboards, some really stellar musicians. None of it was ever released, and it's just kind of, lost to the past now. But I enjoyed working with Bob, and it was a big thrill for me since it's his Dylan connection.
Oh, that's good. Speaking of Bob Dylan, you've done more than your fair share of Bob Dylan covers over the years, and I guess there's a lot of pressure involved in covering Dylan material, which many people see as sacred. How do you tackle such a task?
Well, I try to, more reinterpret than cover him. I definitely don't, sound like him. I try to, even melodically, I may change that would be a little bit here and there, but I just love his words and his music, and so that's kind of my attraction to him. I've never, I've done so many Dylan things that I think people, they send me a lot of Dylan things, or, like email, I'll get the set list he played last night in Cincinnati or something, and I'm just not into it that much. I like his songwriting and his songs. I'm not some super fan that needs to know what outfit he wore last night, and, all that kind of stuff. I get a lot of that because people just assume I'm just totally consumed with Dylan because I always put his songs on my CDs.
I believe, though, you did do a pilgrimage to his old hometown at one point.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in things in his life, and that was when I was in Minnesota, and a good friend of mine's from Hibbing, where Dylan's from, and so he kind of, the same thing. He called the local paper. I mean, I was actually playing a gig in Duluth, and they kind of turned it into a whole big press story and TV story about, I came to visit the boyhood home of my idol, but, it was more of a kind of a coincidence that it was cool to see his house he was born in, which is actually in Duluth, not Hibbing. He grew up in Hibbing, and then Paul was another songwriter. His name's Paul Metzler. He's a famous Minnesota songwriter. He said, well, let's go over to Hibbing, and so we did, and he knew the guy that lived in Dylan's old house, so I ended up getting, the guy gave me one of the windows of Dylan's boyhood home, gave me one of the windows. He'd replaced the old windows with some new, more better windows, so he gave me one of the original windows that I guess Dylan probably used to stare out when he was a kid. That was kind of cool, I still have that, so, yeah.
Wow. But aside from Dylan, you have a great knack of interpreting songs of other writers and putting your own stamp on them. Do you think the art itself of song interpretation is something that's not given enough due credit? It's an underrated art form, if you like?
Yeah, I think it kind of is. And I know some of the songwriters, they just refuse to cover other people's songs. It's like they think that their songs, and the ones that I know mainly like that, it's not because they don't think they do a good job. It's almost like they think their songs are so brilliant that they don't need to do a Dylan song or a Beatles song. And I hate that because, you could take a lot of the records out today, put the same new singer and the same band, and they're all great musicians, and the singer's great, and just replace every song on the record with a Dylan song, it would be a better record. Because if you don't have the song, and I don't care how good you sing or how good the band plays it, if the lyrics and stuff are trite or not good, it's just not a good song. So, Dylan's definitely one of my favorites. Of course, Woody Guthrie, which I've done a lot of work with his family, and then I have other favorites. Jackson Brown's one of my favorite songwriters, but. In Texas, it's you can kind of fall into what they call the velvet rut here because it's so easy to make a living playing music, and it's comfortable, and you make money, and you kind of can just play all over Texas, but play a little bit to this Texas angle, and it's just not my thing. It's just not some of the writing in that genre, and that whole scene is just so, not lowest common denominator. So I have my favorite Texas writers like Butch Hancock and stuff, but I a lot of the I just try not to pigeonhole myself as a Texas singer-songwriter.
Of course, many people make the Woody Guthrie connection with you, I guess somewhat due to your time spent in Oklahoma. Tell us about your love of the work of Woody Guthrie and how it first came into your life.
Well, if you grew up in the United States, This Land Is Your Land is kind of like one of the first songs you learn to sing in kindergarten, grade school. And so, Woody's already part of your consciousness before you know it. But in Oklahoma, there's still part of the Guthrie family living there, including Woody's youngest sister, Mary Jo, who's still, living, and she's in a nursing home finally, but she's kind of the main person of our Woody Guthrie Folk Festival I helped start for the last 15 years in his hometown of Okemah. And So he's just meant a lot to me, and I got to know Nora and Arlo and other sides of the family. They really honored me by telling me that they consider me, to be part of the family, and they really appreciate, what I do, and I appreciate what they do. And, I just did the big Woody 100 concert at the Kennedy Center about 2 weeks ago with Judy Collins, Grambling Jack Elliott, and John Mellencamp, Roseanne Cash. So they always include me in really cool events like that honor their dad. I actually have 20 of his songs, that's never been recorded that I need to work on as far as a other CD project I just hadn't delved into yet.
Fantastic. And the Ribbon of Highway project was obviously something very dear to your heart. How did that all come together?
Well, just because nearly any songwriter you talk to is into Woody, and as I've become somewhat of I studied Woody a lot. I'm amazed at all the musicians that people would realize that he reached. I mean, Jimi Hendrix carried Woody lyrics in his pocket, and there's people like, Nora Guthrie, his daughter, has letters from John Lennon, Johnny Rotten, Bill Monroe, the great bluegrass legend, was a big fan of Woody Guthrie. I mean, his music touched a lot more people, including, like I say, the people that even at the 100 celebrations. John Mellencamp said the first 2 songs he learned as a kid was Woody Guthrie songs. And then I did Woody tributes this year with bands like the Flaming Lips and even Hanson, the boy band here in the States. I mean, his music means a lot to a lot of people, so it's easy to get some people together to sing Woody songs. Everybody knows a few, and then I combined it with narrations, to make it all kind of a program. And I did that for about 10 years, the Ribbon Highway. And this year I do one called Walking Woody's Road, which is a little more ad-lib, casual version of that show.
Sounds like you might have taken a little bit of inspiration from those fantastic tribute concerts they did for Woody back in the late 60s.
Yeah, I did, because people say, where'd you get this idea? And I'm like, well, it's been done. They did some in the 60s. They did one, Hollywood Bowl, had Will Geer, the famous actor that was a friend of Woody's, doing the narrations. I think what was different back then, though, one time there was only about 70 songs when he recorded, and 70 songs that people knew, and very few of his writings. I give all the credit to Nora Guthrie, who opened up the Catacombs, with the Mermaid Avenue record, etc. Yeah. And she's been, there's over 3,000 songs, and she showed me a couple of new songs that got sent in the last year that, people are still finding his writings and his songs. And I went to some private collectors and read through some of their Woody manuscripts, and there's other songs and also his philosophies and words. So my show difference than the old shows is they had a limited amount of material to draw on, where I have unlimited material now to change the show up. It's not like, well, these are only 10 songs you did, and there's only 5 quotes we've ever found that Woody said. Personally, I mean, I could do a different show every night, so that's kind of what makes the Walking Woody's Road special. I can kind of tailor it to whatever tune somebody wants to do.
There's an amazing timelessness in his songs that they just never sound dated. Do you put that down to the subject matter that he wrote about, or the attitude that he instilled in his writing?
I think it's a little bit of both, and he borrowed most of his melodies. I mean, Woody, it's pretty much documented. He didn't hardly write any of the melodies in songs. They come from old, like Carter Family and, real basic country melodies, etc., blues melodies. But he definitely his words, especially in my show, it's almost like his songwriting is just a small part, and his music a small part of Woody's life. To me, it's almost like the tip of the iceberg, because the things he wrote, his philosophies, and his, he wrote plays. They found a brand new novel this centennial year called House of Earth that is being published next year by some esteemed writer Douglas Brinkley, and Johnny Depp has bought the book rights to it. That's all about Woody, and sustainable sod housing on the plains. And it's a completely realized novel with love scenes and everything. And I mean, this guy wrote novels, he wrote plays, he, met Marjorie, while he was doing the music for a Broadway dance piece for the Martha Graham Dancers. So, I mean, the guy was, a painter. I don't know if you've got the Woody Guthrie book called Artworks. He was amazing watercolor and painter, or he did oil paintings. The guy was just a genius in many, many ways.
Talking about your own recordings over the years, you've chosen to self-produce your records in the past. Has that mostly been a case of if you want something done a certain way, it's just best to do it yourself?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Plus, most of the people that operate in the genre that we're in, kind of, in the States they call it the Americana circuit or whatever. It's hard to, pay a lot of money for producers. And I mean, the ones I could afford are people I wouldn't want to produce my records. The producers that I would think of, like, oh, I'd love that guy to produce a record. They would cost so much money. It just would be beyond the budget of little labels I've recorded for. So I've kind of just learned to do it myself. But I own my own studio along with my partner, Kelsey Warren from Dallas. We have a complete recording studio here in Austin that, is probably one of the best in the U.S. I mean, Dixie Chicks recorded their platinum record at home there. Stevie Ray recorded there. Sean Cole. I mean, it's a world-class. The Uncle Tupelo record, Anodyne, was recorded totally in Cedar Creek Studios that I'm partners in. So it's easy just to use your own studio, and that helps because you can make mistakes and not have the clock running or pay for studio time. So it helps you as a producer because you can scrap a song and start over and not feel like, oh, I only had 2 days to get that done. Now I'm out $1,200 for renting a studio. So that helps too, so.
And launching your own label as well as you have a few years back, how liberating experience has that been in terms of being able to conduct your career on your own terms?
Oh, it's great. And then I love it. I love all the people that we put records out on. We're working on a record right now with a really great artist named Garrett LeBeau, really great kind of, a little bit out of the singer-songwriter genre, more of an Al Green meets Moss Skaggs and Aaron Neville type sound. And so I'm working on that. That might be our next record out. And then we have Sam Baker and some people doing some more. And we're also working on a tribute record to Jackson Browne that we started. It's going to have some really great versions of Jackson Browne songs done by some real stellar artists.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent. Has it been everything you expected it to be, running your own label? Has it turned up any unexpected consequences?
Well, yeah, but, I've got some good people, working for me down there, and it helps me. I mean, the first few years I really had to be more, I'm getting now where I can kind of let them handle all that part, and I'm back to making music a little more and doing more traveling. But it took a while to get it off the ground because it's a lot of work and setting up different things and just, and finding the right people to help and all that. But it's really beginning to take wings. I feel pretty liberated right now to do whatever I want to do, and just make more and more music.
So was the whole thing born out of not really being able to find a label that was sympathetic to your needs as an artist?
No, because actually, Red House, my last record label, they're great. That's one of the best experiences I ever had. But it's more an economic thing. If you control your own pie, and you can do what you want. And like I say, having a great partner like Kelsey Warren, my partner, he's actually becoming a very, very famous American billionaire. He's just a fantastic person to have my back financially to help get this off the ground. But he's also like a true music connoisseur. He can tell you the third song down on a Jackson Browne record he's just a Counting Crows album. He really studies music, understands it, and he likes real music because being a man of his means, he could hire the Rolling Stones to play a private party, but he'd rather have me or Sam Baker come play his house. Mm-hmm. So he really loves music, and him and Sam are actually really good friends too. So we've got a guy that's really has our back and believes in what we're doing, and he's a guy that started from nothing. He's just a welder's helper, so he understands the value of hard work and just building a dream.
Yeah. Now, you became a parent about 10 years ago, and they say parenthood changes everything in your life. And I guess for a musician who spends a lot of time on the road, this would be even more so. Did you have to reassess your career when you became a dad?
Yeah, I did, and I actually did make a conscious decision to stay a little bit off the road and try to do little 1 week, 2 week out stretches. I quit doing a lot of the month and 2 month out type touring, but now that he's turned 10, like I say, along with kind of the label beginning getting its wings, it's to the point where I'm going to be doing a little more longer journeys and trips, and I'm probably end up taking him with me maybe next summer on some tours. But I definitely didn't want to miss those those years because I started late. I was 47 when I had my kids, so I knew that was my last chance to really spend time with my only child also. So I knew better than just to stay gone and regret it. So I balanced it out. But like I say, it's easy to make a living and play and do a lot of stuff here in Texas. It's we call it the Velvet Rut. So. That's why you see a lot of Austin bands, they won't even take a chance and go anywhere else, because if they don't feel like they're going to pack the room out and everybody knows their name, they don't want to do it. I'm the opposite. I'd love to go to places like Montreal, Canada, and play for 40 people and that know my music there, because I seem to have a small fan base here anywhere I go, at least, and in some cities I have really great fan bases. So it's all kind of doing it on your own terms, like you're saying. It's very satisfying to do music and live your music life in your own terms.
So outside of the States, where would be your best markets? I believe Europe was pretty good for you.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm getting ready to go to Holland. Holland's always been one of my best markets, and I'm only going over there for a week because I'm so busy with the kind of the motto of my record label and what we're doing is bite off more than you can chew and start chewing. so I'm just so busy. But I was able to squeeze in a tour to Holland where my record's doing really well. It's on the top of the Euro Americana charts, and I went. I'm going over there because I just love the people of Holland. I have great friends there, but and it's all the shows are sold out. So it's like I say, it's one of my better markets. Then there's places I've never been, like Australia, which, I'd love to come down there sometime. And Bill Chambers and other friends tell me I need to make it down there. I just, I'm sure it'll happen sooner or later, but it's just, the year rolls around and you're already, up starting the next year. So I don't know.
No, we'd love to get you down here. We have a great festival season the first quarter of each year, which you would fit in beautifully.
Oh, great. Well, like I said, Bill's sent me a little some contact, and you're even welcome to send Ashley if you have any, because that's the way it probably would work best. I could build a little festival circuit and come down and hit, and be seen by a lot of people at once rather than try to go over there and play a bunch of little clubs, because I just, economically, I mean, in some ways it does not make, but like I say, I'm one of the few people that do that. I do a lot of tours somewhere where I could have stayed in town and made the same amount of money and never went 5 blocks from my house, but I prefer to get out. I prefer to do it in a way that makes sense. I can't, I compare it to like being a milkman, in the old days. It's like, there's great fans in every little town in America, but I just don't have the time or the energy to, but if I can kind of do a regional festival or maybe they can come to me a little bit, I'll meet them halfway, so that would be a good way to tour Australia, because I just love so many of the musicians in that country.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people do when they come down here. They'll combine the festival circuit and fill in the gaps with club work as well while they're here, and they end up staying for a couple of months and keep quite busy. Yeah,
like I said, I think all of my peers, everybody I know has been down there touring except me. I'm probably the last man standing that from Austin that hadn't toured Australia. I did New Zealand years ago and had a great time doing that, but that was more like back in '94 or something like that, and I had it was after my first record was out, because, Walk Away Renee, my cover of that in New Zealand was kind of making the charts, and so it was a great experience, I love that neck of the woods, although I realize that 600 miles away, people always assume New Zealand and Australia are next door, which they are in a way, but they're still totally two different countries, I know. So.
Yeah. With your songwriting, has your method and procedure of songwriting changed much through the years?
Well, I don't know, maybe a little bit. I definitely tried not to put as much kind of upbeat rock stuff on my new record. I've kind of mellowed into just some other different things. And I've also, been doing a lot of tunes on what's called a baritone acoustic guitar, which kind of changes the voicing, the keys I sing in. And, I'm just always looking for something kind of new and fresh to help with the songwriting. I've never been one to want to change, direction totally and become like a Western swing artist or a jazz guy. But, because I know there's some pretty stellar artists over the year that have delved into experimental albums where, it's like, Jimmy does jazz or, whatever. But I've tried to stick to what I do best. And I see, I also listen to my fans a lot. Some people say, well, how'd that song get on the record this year? Well, over the course of a year, I hear people keep saying, are you going to put that song on the record? And I get a sense of a few of the songs they'd like to hear on a record. So I say I don't have any problem with that. Some people would think they don't like fans tell them what to play or something, but I typically think, oh, no, if it's what they like, give people what they want, so that's part of the process of choosing songs for records for me is what the fans have given me on feedback over the years.
What about while you're traveling? Are you able to find time to write while on the road, or is that something that just has to wait till you get home?
No, I actually do more writing on the road than home. I get to kind of, there's other songwriters, like one of my favorites, Butch Hancock here in Texas. We talked about just the rhythm of travel and driving long miles across the American West. It opens up my mind for lyrics and songs more than sitting in a, writing room and, that kind of Nashville way where you sit with a bunch of writers in a boardroom and write songs or I have friends that are pretty great songwriters, and they sat down, they set down time to write every day, every morning I had my coffee from 10 to 12 is my writing time, and I try to write something. I don't really work that way. I work more like just stream of consciousness, get ideas here and there, and then I sit down and bang out some melodies or put some words to melodies I've heard in my head, and that's kind of the way I work it.
Fantastic. And just before I let you go, Jimmy, what upcoming plans? What's in your books for the rest of this year, anyway?
Well, like I said, I'm going to Holland. I'm coming back here. I'm hoping to maybe kind of work a little bit on these Woody songs that Nora gave me. But also, I'm putting together. I've done so many live shows in the last 10 years. I have one of my records called Trail, which is a lot of bootleg and outtakes and one of those types of records, and even a lot of live gigs, off the board tapes they call them. And I've been compiling a bunch of that to put a volume, maybe 2 and 3 of just some random live stuff and radio show stuff and all out. So I'm kind of been compiling that. That might be my next little stopgap record before I do another studio record. Probably I'll probably wait another year and then do another studio record. So that's kind of my immediate plans as far as recording, and as far as playing, I'm just kind of playing gigs as they pop up and come along. I've already got stuff booked for 2013. So
fantastic, busy times ahead.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks again, Jimmy. Much appreciated to give us your time today, and I'll let you get back and enjoy a rare Friday night off.
Okay, thanks, John. I hope to see you sometime.
Yeah, we'll be here waiting for you.
And you're in contact with Ashley. I'm sure, does she send you all our Music Road stuff? I'm hoping you're getting all our records that we're producing there.
Nothing as yet, but I will get in touch with her anyway.
Tell her. I'll have her send you the whole catalog. We have a couple of Slade Creed records we put out, Sam Baker records. We have a record on Malcolm Holcomb. I don't know if you're familiar with any of these names, but we have a Kevin Welch record we put out. The River and Highway record we should send you, and like I say, we have some other cool stuff coming up. So I'll have her send you just a box of all the records we put out over the past 3 or 4 years.
That'll be sensational. We'll put them to good use.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thanks, Jimmy. All the best.
Okay, bye-bye.